The Unfiltered by Jade.
Jade. Welcome to The Unfiltered by Jade, where we educate, empower, and entertain. Feel free to like, share, subscribe, download, donate, and make everybody know about this.
Beats by RB Records.
Shopping assistance, your style, your budget. Our services include online and local shopping for individuals and businesses, personal shopping, purchasing of company and office supplies, importing and exporting small packages across Jamaica and worldwide, and helping you find unique gifts and items for all events and occasions. Contact us at 876-919-5195 or shoppingassistance2015@gmail.com. Shopping Assistance, your style, your budget.
Welcome back to The Unfiltered by Jade. Today we have with us here Nina Oglesby. Nina is a communication specialist, a public relations liaison, a public speaker. She is a faith-driven nerd on a mission. I don't know if she's a nerd, but she says she's a nerd. She helps everyday professionals with communication skills, PR, and marketing. She is a paid hypeman who gets a thrill from proving that you can win over even the most apprehensive audience members using strategic conversations, stories, and approaches. You can't articulate a promise until you see that you have the capacity to take the land. This is Nina. Hi, Nina.
Hi.
How are you?
I'm doing well. I'm doing good. I'm so excited.
Me too, with that kind of introduction. I'm very excited. Nina, I'm happy to have you here.
Thank you.
To speak about this it's a poignant topic, the impact of self-esteem on performance.
Yes.
We don't normally want to talk about the self-esteem where it is where performance. So wait for everybody, no, you must perform. Just go up and do something without evaluating first where our self-esteem is at. You're here to do that for us, Nina.
Yes.
I want you, Nina, to tell our audience, what is self-esteem and how does it differ from self-confidence?
Oh, I love that question. So a lot of times people think that they are the same, but they're not. Self-confidence is a byproduct. It's a result. So if you think of them together as cause and effect, you get that, okay, self-esteem is the causal factor and the result is how you measure yourself. So that's confidence, that's self-confidence. So self-esteem is really the same. If you took the self off of it and you just had the esteem, it's the way you regard a thing. It's the way in your mind it holds a seat of influence, what you feel about it, what you think about it, what you believe about a particular thing. Well, this thing happens to be you. So how do you regard yourself? What measure? What do you feel about you? And then self-confidence is the reflection of that idea. It's the reflection of that image. And so it's very different when you realize that, because it helps you to understand that self-esteem impacts self-confidence. So a lot of times people, because you think when you hear self-esteem, self-confidence, you think, oh, okay. Oh, she's self-confident. Oh, I like her self-esteem. But what you're not seeing is the fact that because she sees herself with the right lens and the right perspective, she's able to then exude a confidence that now gives you the ability to pick up what she's putting down. It gives you the ability to grasp what she's projecting. And that's only because of how she felt about herself. Two of my favorite stories regarding self-confidence and self-esteem is David and Goliath. You got David, this ruddy young kid. Even though he was handsome, he was still petite in stature. And here it is, he's coming to ask the men on the battlefield who were fighting the Philistines and Goliath, what's all the hoopla? What's everything going on? And they responded to him and told him what's happening. And when David was like, oh, okay, I got this. They immediately shot down and was like, wait a minute,
Mm-hmm.
don't you realize who you are? They were giving him information based on how they perceived him.
True.
Thank God David did
Mm.
not, he didn't align with the conversation they had in their mind. Else he would
True.
have said, I can't do this.
True.
But instead, we know the story. He took him down. He took that
That's right.
Goliath down. So, yeah,
Nice. I love that.
thank you.
How does self-esteem affect motivation and the willingness to take on challenges?
Wow. So it's almost like a car with fuel, right? Your self esteem is that fuel. So if you don't have much of it because of how you're seeing and viewing things about who you are as a person, you're too close to your failures of the past, you're too close to naysayers, you're too close to the memories of how you've come to know who you are. Rather than letting God's mercies be new every morning for you. Because of that, then it impacts what you think you're capable of doing.
Mm.
So, motivation, when you look at it in regards to even business, right? It's the driving force behind the reasons of something, whether it's buying something, a reason for listening to this podcast, what value you pick up from it, whether it's whatever it is, it's what inspires and influences you of what's next. So if you have this motivation of okay, I want to go ahead and I want to offer this program to my job because I see this problem happening. But let's say, for example, people don't really speak to you as much. They perceive you as shy, so they don't even make the effort. Now you're internalizing that. You're thinking,
Mm-hmm.
oh, they must not rock with me or must not spend time with me because I'm this person that's, this yucky person. Now you've automatically canceled the ideas of you being just what the doctor ordered. And
True.
now, as a result of it, you never even propose or pitch an opportunity for them to see solution or change.
True.
So it's really how you perceive yourself and how it influences whether you conclude I have no reason to progress. Why? Because I feel like I don't even have the equipment to get the job done.
Mm.
So how in the world can I possibly be the one to present something for it to change?
Yeah.
Or even a reason to remain, right? Because of how I see myself. I don't see that I can handle the podcast. I might have too many ums and ahs and filler words. So I'm not even gonna why bother? Why try? You then give yourself the motivation, which is the reason to remain.
Yes.
So a lot of times when we hear the word motivation, we think, oh, that's positive, right? But people don't know that you can be motivated negatively as well as
Yes, you can.
positively.
Mm-hmm.
Like people who, for example, they may face challenges where I don't want to get up out of the bed. That means they're motivated. They have a reason to remain. They've just
Mm-hmm.
given themselves a license to stay still or a
Yes.
license to stay stuck.
Yes.
So your perception really can influence whether I feel motivated positively to take the land or to do something, to conquer something, to fulfill the assignment or purpose, or I don't feel driven at all because of how I perceive myself.
Yes.
It reminds me one of my favorite stories, and I'm big on storytelling. That's just the nature of the beast for me. That's
Right.
who I am. I'm big on storytelling. That reminds me of the stories of the 12 spies in the Bible. You have 12 spies. Moses told them to spy out this land. The promise of the provision was already there. They just had to go and assess it, right? What are we up against? Where are we going with this? What is our next step? 10 of those came back and they said, and even in like verse 30th, because I made sure I wanted to highlight verse 30th, and that's Numbers chapter 13. It says, then Caleb quieted the people because the people kept thinking, whoa, we saw this clusters of fruit. Oh, it's about to go down. We like it. We like the land. We know the provision is there. But we saw some giants and we perceive ourselves as grasshoppers. They made the conclusion.
Right.
It wasn't that someone gave them the insight.
Right. They made that
They-
conclusion. Mm-hmm.
right. And the sad thing about it is when you go further into the story, you see that all along the people who were in the land were terrified of them.
Yes.
Think about how many times we've stopped going forward in something because we've canceled out in our mind what we think it is, how
Mercy.
we feel about ourselves, and
Mm.
yet already the opportunity is already there.
Mercy. So who is stopping ourselves? We are stopping ourselves.
Right.
Mm.
We are it's almost like empowerment in reverse.
True.
We're minimizing or diminishing our own authority.
Mm.
And as a result of it, we're becoming idle. We're becoming stagnant. We're not even fruitful.
We're not doing anything
Right.
because we minimize who we are
Right.
and who God says we are.
Exactly.
Nina, what are some of the common signs of low self esteem and how can this impact our performance?
Yeah, that's a loaded question. There's so many things that can be signs of it, and some spiritually, some that are very apparent to the outside. So I'm no doctor, and I know scientifically and spiritually, it can look different for many folks. For me personally, just confessing on my end, some of my signs were immediately dismissing opportunities.
Mm. Okay.
I was praying for the answer. God heard me. And then I went forward in faith. So he released, but then I didn't show up
Mm.
because I did not even feel capable. So why bother?
Yes.
I didn't realize that's what I was saying to myself, but my actions were showing that.
True.
Also, highlighting others, not because they're worthy, right? Because we should always be like edifying, especially if that's your ministry. You should be edifying each other, but highlighting others, not because they're worthy, but because they're more worthy than myself.
Mm.
It could be I'm at an event. It could be I've been at an event and I'm in a space with people and we're talking and having a good time and they're listening and they're like, "Oh, girl, you're sharp. I really like you." But because I don't align with that confession and because I don't see what they see, now I'm automatically trying to hurry up and switch the conversation to the next person.
True. Yeah.
Because in my mind, I've already said these people are already more important than myself. I've already said these people, I'm not anybody special. I don't even need to be in the room. That's another thing, staying out of rooms that God has already graced you for.
Mm.
There are seats and there are tables that you need to be present for.
True.
But because you don't even see yourself as carrying what's needed, you don't feel good about yourself. You're still carrying the old load from what auntie and them said, from what mama and them said. You're still carrying those things from that baggage of youth. As a result, you don't even come and accept the invite to be in that space. Another thing for me was I could see there was an opportunity, let's say a job opportunity, and I would look at the demands and look at the requirements and automatically bypass. I'm not even applying for this.
Yep. Oh yeah.
So it was lack of activity, lack of faithfulness, lack of fruitfulness, because, like I said earlier, how I felt and perceived myself impacted my activity, my productivity, everything that I was involved in. It was evident. So those were some of the signs. Putting myself down, and then trying to pretend like it's a joke.
Mm-hmm. Or
That's
joking about things about
yeah, yeah,
ourselves.
yeah. And like, no, there's some things, yeah, you might get a good hee hee ha ha out of, but then there's some things that you don't need to joke about, especially when it's tearing yourself down.
True.
So those were some of the signs for myself. And, you know, it's one thing not to market, another thing was marketing. And I know this might seem like, how is this connected? But it's one thing not to market yourself because you believe I have no product, I'm not ready for market yet, or I don't know who I'm marketing to, or I haven't made up my mind on certain things about my business. Okay, everybody has that space. That's fine. It's another thing for people to say, "Hey, I love when you do this. There's a demand for it." But yet you don't even bring it to the market because you don't assess your supply properly.
Mm. Okay.
And now you're missing opportunities, you're missing sales, you're missing impact. So I just see how it looks like different things, and you see the evidence of it, the proof of it. It could also be you're at the office and you spot something happening. It could be conflict between people, and you know good and well, like, okay, I've done this before, but I'm unworthy, so
Mm.
I won't even proceed with it. It's so sad. It's so
Yeah,
sad.
it is.
We have to treat ourselves better than that.
There's a lot that's coming from that.
Very much so.
Can self-esteem be developed or improved over time? And if so, what are some strategies or techniques that we can do to help?
Yes, it can definitely be developed over time. And one of the things, and this may sound a bit churchy for some people listening. Everybody has a different walk of life, so I apologize in advance for that if it sounds like that. But I'm going to be 100%
That's right.
that until you shift and get a king-like confidence, you won't see what's in front of you with the correct lens. Until you get a Caleb-like mentality, you will turn your provision into a prison and your opportunity into opposition. Here it is, they had the land, but they could never pursue it and take it. And so you have to first redefine what voice am I going to let be the most influential factor in my life on how I assess me. Not how many times I had to go for my driver's license test, not how many times I transitioned in my life, not how many times I had to restart my business. Those cannot be the influential factors because those are unstable. You're always going to be evolving. You're always going to be growing. You're always going to be developing. It's something you said here that was so powerful before we, jumped on together. You said that we should always be progressing. We should never remain still or stagnant because God is about advancement. And so, because of that, if God is about advancement and I am basing my self esteem with these factors, where's the voice coming from? From what direction? It reminds me
True.
of Adam and Eve.
Yes.
Would they ever had known they were naked had they not seen that? So
Mm.
when God asks, who told you you were naked?
Yeah.
Who told you you were unworthy?
Yep.
Who told you you couldn't go and dominate in that office?
Yep.
Who told you you couldn't go back for that second degree? Who
Yep.
told you you had no right to be married again? Who
Hmm.
told you these things?
Even listening to you and even putting it together, even with psychology, or let me go counseling. We talk about different theories, and one of the Adlerian theory that I know about is encouragement. We always sometimes have to encourage ourselves or even people around us. So we have to also be careful of the people who are around us. If
Ooh,
they're not encouraging us, they're discouraging us.
ooh,
And we need people to encourage us so that we can also build our self esteem.
yes.
Because there are many times we don't feel that we're good enough. And because of that, we don't want to sit at the table with people because they're better than me. Instead of saying, you know what, I am gonna I'm gonna put myself in a situation where I'm gonna be able to be at the same standard as everybody else or even better than, because I'm going to educate myself, I'm going to propel myself, I'm going to always be ensuring that I'm surrounding myself with knowledge and enlarging my territory, enlarging my
Mm,
borders so I can learn and I can grasp. So encouraging ourselves and being self-aware. We have to also be self-aware of where we are at, because sometimes we don't have good self-esteem or we have low self-esteem because of what we tell ourselves or because of what somebody may have told us. Somebody may have said, you're not good enough. And as Nina said earlier, we use what people say sometimes and we can use it to push us and motivate us to where we ought to be. So if somebody say you're not good enough and you're not going to reach a certain place, okay, I'm going to use what you said to propel me to show that I
mm,
am good enough. Sometimes we don't just use negative remarks or negative words to just hold us down and say, okay, and sit with it. We use it sometimes to propel us because people can only say what they want to say. And the Bible also reminds us that the tongue is powerful. There is life and death in the power of the tongue. So if we continue to speak negatively against ourselves, then we're going to keep cutting down ourselves little by little.
ooh, that's good. Ooh, this is why I said I got to interview you one of these days and put you in the hot seat. Oh, oh,
Yeah, it's
oh
it's
my
so it's so
goodness.
it's so important when it comes to self-esteem and knowing who God is. And sometimes we don't reach our potential where God wants us to be because we have low self-esteem and we're causing it upon ourselves most of the time.
Exactly. And just like you said, this is exactly why I said one of the first things I had to do was be honest with myself about where am I getting this information about how I see me?
Yeah, yeah.
And am I reliable?
Mm,
Girl, you 43 and ain't got it all right, right? Like you ain't perfect. You haven't
hmm
arrived. So if you
Mhm.
haven't arrived, and even in your best judgments, even in your best intentions, you've still missed the mark, do you think you should be taking the cue from you? Or do you think you should be finding out who the source of the who's the manufacturer of this
That's
company?
right. Mhm.
And then let me see
Mhm.
first what he says. And then let
Yes.
everything that I take into my ear gate align with that. And if there's a
Yes.
misalignment, I need to know. Because sometimes we do hear feedback that's helpful.
Yes.
It might be hurtful, but it's helpful.
Yes.
Okay. It's just what we need to go to the next level.
Yes.
It could be something like you saying to me, okay, Nina, as a podcast host, I'm going to tell you what you need to have in place because this is what people are going to be looking for. It might sting to hear that. But if
Yes.
that's helping elevate and taking me higher, that's that voice that I might need to accept.
Yes.
But if
And those
every
are the people you need to be around with, though.
yes, exactly. Those are the people we need to be around,
That's
having
right,
those
Nina.
mentors, having a village, having those mentees. But if every time I turn around, that voice just takes me back
Man,
into Egypt, I don't need to go there.
we don't want it.
Right. What are you doing in my space?
Period. We don't want that.
So redefining that, making sure that you're constantly putting messages, be your own programmer.
Yeah.
One of the things that I loved and hate about my industry is I had to learn the founding fathers of my industry. And in learning that, I saw the scary side of propaganda. But
Mm.
it also opened me to understand programming. And programming can work in both directions. It can work in, propaganda that you put before yourself and it's influencing you to make the wrong choice.
Hmm.
If that can happen, then that means I can behold something beautiful and it can give me to make the right choice.
Yeah.
So constantly journaling, constantly reflecting. And then when it goes beyond something within your wheelhouse to even handle, don't be ashamed of counseling or therapy.
Ah.
I think
Yeah.
so many times that has a stigma in our society that we think that means you're broken.
Mm.
And guess what? God loves broken people. So
Hmm.
even if you see me as broken, God sees me as beautiful. And I'm not
My
going to
yeah.
let your perception of me being broken get in the way of me getting help for myself.
Listen, people stop listening to people out there who have stigma against you. If it is that you need therapy, go to therapy. If they have a headache, they go and buy Panadol.
Come on.
We don't look at them anyway. If they can't see, they go get glasses. They go to the dentist to get their teeth checked.
Woo,
Go and get your mental health checked. Thank you.
woo. And that was a PSA moment coming
That's
from
right.
me. Okay.
Mhm.
That is exactly what we need to hear.
Yes,
Because I think,
please.
especially as believers, we can over spiritualize or we can under spiritualize and simplify something that needs to be addressed from a holistic perspective.
Yes, please. Yes, please. We all need to get checked sometimes. We're human beings that we are not perfect. So there are things about us that needs to get checked. And just like when you're hungry, you go eat. If it is that you have problems mentally, go seek help for it. That's it.
That's
Nina,
so good.
what role does self-compassion play in building healthy self-esteem and impacting performance?
Oh, this is one of my this is a favorite for me because it's something that even we talked about earlier. If we're honest with ourselves, we love to talk about what other people do right. We love to show compassion, even though it can be on short supply. If we're honest in society, it could be on short supply, but for the most part, we love to have compassion. If we watch the commercial and it shows the pet who's been abused, there's a sorrow there, a desire to see them well. If we hear of a friend who just lost a parent, there's a desire for us to comfort. We tend to pour out more than we allow ourselves to receive.
Mm.
And so, because of that, we can be hard and impatient and hardest on ourselves, which is why I truly believe that's why people hate public speaking
Listen,
because
yep,
we're already in that headspace. So
yeah,
if we could learn how to say, let me make a decision that okay, one, let me get some accountability around me. Okay, let me get some community around me
mm-hmm.
because sometimes we mean well, we just don't do well.
Aye,
So let me get some people around me who I can be honest and say, listen, I am battling with this. I went through these things in my life and I've worked to heal and shake myself so that I see myself the right way. But there
mm,
are some times where I still struggle to be compassionate with myself. So I might need to text you. I might need to share a thought. I might need to get some prayer. I might need to get some encouragement. But having that compassion and knowing that, accept the fact that you are an imperfect being.
Yes.
It's self-acceptance. It's self-acceptance.
Yes.
I accept that I want to be excellent, and that if I would be perfect. But the reality is, even in perfection, there is a flaw,
Mm.
because I don't have the capacity for that. I'm not perfect. I'm being perfected. I'm being fully developed. I'm not the finished product. It's like when you go to the warehouse, the manufacturing warehouse, you see in the front lobby, you see the finished loaves of bread. But what you didn't see is the grain that was milled down. What you didn't see is the dust hitting the air everywhere, and spectacles of dust
True.
everywhere. What you didn't see is it going through the process of the machine, of it having to be kneaded and molded to come into this finished product. And that's the same thing. We're on a journey in life. Life is a journey. It's a journey. It's like
It is.
traveling somewhere. That means that there are going to be some times when I make the right turn and I get off the right exit. And there are going to be times where I misjudge it and this exit looks like that and I got off the wrong one. I cannot now say, well, because I got off, I beat myself up. I hate myself. I can
Hmm.
never get it right, because that self talk is no joke, because
True.
we plant seeds in our own space, our own mind. And so being able to have that compassion, it impacts us, because now I won't let how I feel about myself be determined
Hmm.
solely by whether I succeed or fail.
Hmm. True.
And that is powerful, because now when I go after the opportunity and promotion or the proposal, I will go from, am I carrying a viable offer or solution to them? Okay,
True.
then let me move me out of the equation.
True.
That's the hardest thing to do, is move ourselves out of the
True.
equation.
True. Hmm.
So having that self-compassion is so necessary, and that helps us when we're patient with ourselves and
Have to be
forgiving.
patient. Yes. And forgiving.
Yes.
Forgiving.
Self-forgiveness.
Yeah. Yeah. That is, it's easier said than done, but we have to learn to forgive ourselves for things that we have done that we may have not gotten so right.
And
Yeah.
this is why I said that accountability piece, because you
Oh,
you
yeah.
you called it. You called it. It is easier said than done. We don't always do it for ourselves.
No. Can the impact of self esteem and performance vary between individuals?
Oh my goodness, yes. Come on. Every office tells us that, right? We have some people who they could spend hours at a time at the cooler, and somehow they still crank out the quota, because they're a robot.
True. True.
It doesn't act like everybody moves differently. And then you have the person who they could get one thing wrong, and now they're in a shame the rest of the day, and you can't even see them anywhere. You go and see them in the bathroom and they won't speak to you, or you won't speak up if you're the person who's facing it. So it can definitely vary from person to person. And sometimes we can be in denial of it because we don't want to admit that we don't love ourselves, or that we don't feel good about ourselves. We're afraid to acknowledge that we've taken one too many hits and we never healed.
True. Very true. Are there specific techniques or exercises that can help individuals improve their self esteem and subsequently enhance their performance?
Yeah, I truly believe so. And
Hmm.
for some of the techniques can be from my own personal hand experiences, reading your word.
Ah,
Reading your word. I know a lot of times people, we get busy and we don't do that. But I think what I love about reading the word of God is that you see things are conditional, based on just faith-based action. Not your own perfection, but did I take a faith-based move? Like the woman with the issue of blood, she knew that she was probably ostracized. People probably wouldn't come near her. She probably felt like, oh, I've been to every specialist. People are probably looking at me like it's my fault. I'm the culprit. Why haven't I healed by now? Yet she pressed in because she had a vision.
yes.
She had a vision of her health and wholeness.
Hmm.
And to me, having a vision is one of the best things. That's the second thing. Really, truthfully, you need to have a vision. And
Yeah.
that comes probably first. But until you have the word of God, you really can't even determine if it's a
A vision.
good vision.
Yep.
So you need to be able to get back to that word, get back to what God says about you apart from you.
Mm-hmm.
Because if we're honest with, if we're, and I know I've said that, that's probably a catchphrase. If I listen back to this, I'm going to be like, you said that way too many times. And someone from Toastmasters, you know better, right? um, I don't mind putting myself on blast. I like it. It's a part of growth, okay?
Yes,
But
it
it's the
is.
fact of, if we look at it rightly, we'll see that we are sometimes our own worst enemy.
True.
So when you pull back the layers of what is the root, because I'm big on root, not just fruit.
Ah,
What is the deeper
come
thing
on,
that's
Nina.
causing, what is the deeper thing that is causing you to feel and assess you the way you are?
Hi.
And more than likely it's because you fell. I remember, goodness, I had, and this might be professional suicide in a sense to do this, to say this, but I remember I had a client project years ago. I was writing for a film director. I had to do their bio, and I'm writing from the place of the audience, but the director wanted it from their perspective. My
Mm-hmm.
mind is audience, like you need to write it for the audience, not just for you. But I still should have honored what she wanted, even though I knew the audience needed to relate to it. I should have allowed her room to learn that.
Mm.
Instead, I felt so bad because I felt like I missed the mark. I wouldn't even take clients the next 3 to 6 months.
No.
It hit me hard. And when I look back, I realized that a lot of times we give too much power to mistakes.
True. Ah,
Why didn't I pull that
Nina.
apart and learn from that?
Yeah, been there.
Why didn't I pull it apart and just say, okay, you dropped the ball, but where? Go
And
back.
how can you fix it?
Right. Go back to that person and ask, hey, this is where I was writing from. Because they might not understand the process. She might have not have understood, well, let me die to self and put myself aside, because when I'm writing for someone, I'm not writing for me, I'm writing for the reader. And
Right.
and so let me listen to what my consultant is saying to me, because maybe so I never even tried to do that. Instead, I took that loss as an L and beat myself up, and then that impacted my next project.
Mm.
Think about how much money I left on the table.
Yes, ma'am.
Wanting to retire my mom, money on the table. Wanting to advance the gospel of the kingdom, money on the table. Wanting to help grow my local assembly, money on the table. Think about that. And my prayer is that every person listening to this will say, I am not going into 2024 leaving anything on the table.
Nope. Oh no.
So we have to stop being our own worst enemy, and pull back the layers on that, and get the word, get a vision of that end, not the process. And then also think of, what voices do I still stay attached to that are not edifying my change?
Mercy.
Because you can get the word all day, you can get the vision all day, but if you don't come out from the, Abraham had to leave his people for him to even see Canaan.
Listen.
So I mean, what are we doing with that?
What voices do I need to disconnect from in order to
Exactly.
reach my goal?
Man, this conversation, it's bringing a heaviness and a light at the same time. A light that there are platforms like yours that bring to light such sensitive situations and topics.
Mm-hmm.
So it feels refreshing in knowing that through our obedience, somebody's going to get this seed,
Yes.
and somebody's life will never be the same.
Right.
But in talking about it and hearing it, it brings a heaviness to know that there are people who will never see their purpose or promise because they refuse to let go and to love who they are.
Oh. Mm-mm.
Can you imagine standing before God knowing that you could have accomplished so many things? You could have gone to Hawaii and delivered that speech. You could have written those 3 books. You could have saved a small village. You could have done all these things had you just shifted how you viewed you. And it makes you realize that you can never stop. You can't stop these healing conversations.
Yeah. We're speaking earlier about the negative self-talk, etc. But how is it that we can use the negative self-talk and self-doubt? How is it that we can use them to boost our self-esteem and in turn improve our performance? We touched on some earlier, but what are some other ways?
Well, self-talk, it reminds me of when you're sitting at the table with elders. I don't know if anybody else can relate listening to this, but I remember when I was growing up, if we were doing the most as kids, they would say shh, shh.
True.
we gotta shush our we gotta shift our own voices. We gotta shift our, we gotta shh, to our own selves.
Mhm.
And then not only that, but it's okay to create an ecosystem of edification around ourselves. We don't live in a
Ah,
vacuum or a bubble. That means that I need every touch point of my life to be agreeing with that very own image and idea that God has already established.
true,
And that I need to ask myself, was that conversation, was that comment, was that going in the direction of that vision and edifying, amplifying, elevating, adding to it, or was it detracting from it?
true.
And you know what? I would even challenge people to do this. Find someone you love. Take a post-it note, a pad of post-its. Write down the things that you've said to yourself to cancel your own power. Write
Right.
those things down and put them in the room around that person. You would not even dare do it. Why? Because you love them.
Hmm.
When will you keep that same energy?
Man, but we are harder on ourselves than on other people, you know.
Come on.
Yes, we are. Yes, we are.
Be honest, you and I can relate on this. We're parents, right?
Oh, yes.
I would never put post-it notes of the things I've said to myself over the years, the times I've gotten in my own way from opportunities. I would never put those kind of messages around my daughter.
No.
So then if I would never put that around her, why would I put that around me?
Oh, we don't value ourselves.
And that's why
It's
that kind
true.
of exercise works, because when you see it for what it is, you start wanting to tear down those post-its.
True.
You don't even want that message around.
True.
And then now you start to increase your own conviction. Because when you hear it come out of your own mouth and your thought, now you begin to cancel it.
And what also can be helpful in terms of exercise is in terms of using a gestalt theory. Sorry about all the theories. That's where I'm on right now. So it was just a theory where we use an empty chair technique. So we sit in a chair and we have an empty chair across from us and we speak to that chair, imagining it's us. We
That's
say
good.
things to that chair thinking we're talking to ourselves, and sometimes when we say those things, we bite our tongue, right? I really
Mm.
talk to myself that way.
Ooh.
That's an important fact. It's used in different situations. If it is that, people, if we want to disconnect ourselves from people and we don't know how to do it, have an
Right.
insecure technique situation. You're sitting across from them, you imagine they're there, and you say to them, hey, I can no longer associate or be around you because I believe that you tear me down. You don't encourage me. You are not for me. The fruit of the Spirit does not dwell within you, so it doesn't shine even on me. I need help in various areas that I don't believe you are at a place right now to help me with. Different
Mm.
things you can say, and you can just lay it out right there. So when it's time to actually say it to the person, you actually know what you're saying. So this technique can also help us even to figure out who we are, where we're at. Yep. And it's also introspection.
And two things. What you shared proves a point that there are so many ways to address it,
Yes.
that you can be as creative as you need to be and want to be, but it does require being honest with yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And I know when I was going to the personal trainer, he said, I asked, why am I having more success meeting with you than when I go on my own, even though I'm more motivated to go? When
Yeah.
I was going to him, I didn't want to go to
Right.
I knew what to expect. I knew it was going to be gruesome.
Mm-hmm.
He said, because of the accountability. You don't want to let me down because you've already paid for this and you want to be here.
True.
Versus when you give yourself a pass because, yeah, you might pay for your gym membership, but there's no one there to stand at the door to greet you, or they won't know if you didn't show up.
True.
So it just goes to show you that there are so many ways and exercises and activities and things you can do, but it does require accountability because sometimes, whether we know it or not, we're just going to still be hard on ourselves, even when we don't need to be.
True.
And the
Very true.
second thing, when you apologize about theories, I cracked up, I tickled, and I said, "Oh goodness, everything starts with a theory." Nothing is proven without one. So when I see people say, "Oh, no theories here," it makes me like, everything began with a theory. Edison did not know anything about what he was doing until he tested it. First,
Yes.
he had to have a theory before he could.
Yes. Yep.
Please and thank you. So We don't do theories around here. As long as we exercise what we say and we see the
Yes,
proof of it and we prove that it works.
that it
Then
works. Yep. Oh yeah. Important stuff. Important stuff. Nina, you gave us everything today that we need to know about how to improve our self-esteem and performance and how to elevate ourselves. Now, what I want for you is to tell people where is it that they can find you if they need to speak to you, if they need your services, if they just need to go on your page to see what you're posting so that they can also be edified positively. How is it that they can reach you?
yes. So if you want to, you can find me through Instagram, there through Intentional Conversationalists. I usually share insights, encouragement there for public relations. I believe that people cannot have a demand for a supply they're unaware of. So I'm
Mm,
big on that. And that's why this conversation is so important because you won't promote a supply you don't feel confident in. And if you don't feel confident in you, you won't feel confident in your supply. So I'm big
true.
on that. And then also LinkedIn. You can find me on LinkedIn. And on LinkedIn, I usually keep all the links to newest events that I'm hosting, any products and services there, as well as you'll find my link for booking me for a consultation if you are willing to use my services, which I hope that that's something that we can partner and do. So thank you so much for asking me that.
No problem, Nina. Thank you so much again for being on the
Thank
podcast
you.
and edifying people, helping people, lifting people up as best as you always do.
Thank you.
And thank you to my listeners for continuing to listen to the Unfiltered by Jade. And we'll be back next week, Tuesday. Thank you.